Hello, my friends. Welcome to the Commander's Crypt. I've got an awesome video for you today. I absolutely love making these videos. I love making these decks. Thank you for being with us today. If you are watching, if you're a subscriber, if you like Magic the Gathering and Commander, you are my friends. We just haven't met yet. Today we're going to talk about the Beamtown Bullies. I absolutely love this deck. It's so much fun. I love it, love it, love it. At first I wasn't going to build this thing because it's very brutal, but it's the only commander, that I know of that does what it does. It basically takes creatures, gives them to opponents, and then they attack other opponents with those creatures. But then what happens is you basically put very devastating creatures in here that ETB on their side, and it's pretty much game over. I play tested this deck, and I really, really liked it. It's even much stronger than I thought it was going to be. So we're going to talk about it today. The Beamtown Bullies are Jund in 1. They say they are legendary creatures, ogre, devil, warriors. That's going to come into play later. I'm going to show you. They have vigilance and haste. Tap them, target opponent whose turn it is, puts target non-legendary creature card from your graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. It gains haste. Goad it at the beginning of the next end step. Exile it. 4/4. So vigilance and haste so they can attack, and then you can use their abilities. Very, very awesome. This deck is a lot of fun. And I think you're going to like the build that I did. So this is the Henzi Toolbox pre-con that I just basically flipped commanders and did some changing. The basic framework is still from that deck, the lands and mana rocks and all that kind of stuff. But we made some changes, and I think you'll like the changes. They're pretty cool. So there it is. These are some dirty boys right here, the Boomtown Rats. And today we're gonna be seeing their Beastie Boys friends that they use to kill your opponents with. So like I said, this deck is the Henzi Toolbox deck and the Riveteers deck from New Capena. And so it's got the Soul Ring because Soul Ring, Felwar Stone because it's good, and Isochron Scepter. I looked around. I saw other lists. None of them listed Isochron Scepter, and I thought it would make a very fantastic include in this deck because I'll show you here in a second. There's a lot of instance for 2 CMC. So the Soul Ring and Felwar Stone are going to be there to help you hopefully get the Beamtown Bullies out an extra turn early. If you do, it's devastating. I play tested this thing, and it would consistently win turn 4 or 5. Very strong. So Isochron Scepter for 2 mana. It has imprint. When it comes into play, you may remove an instant card and converted mana. With converted mana cost 2 or less in your hand from the game. We all know what this card does. Tap it. You may copy the imprinted instant card and play the copy without paying its mana cost. So there you go. This is gonna come out later. You'll see Commander's Sphere. You could probably swap that out with something else a little bit better. A Mana Crypt would actually work very well in this deck with the signets. It's all about speed with this deck, getting the Beamtown Bullies out as quickly as possible and destroying your opponent by flipping a devastating creature on them. Arcane Signet, one of the best mana rocks to come out in the last few years. And then Geometric Nexus. I put this card in here because a good portion of your cards you can't even use as far as creatures. They're so devastating. They're devastating creatures that you flip onto other people, creatures that you definitely would not want on your side. And so with decks like that, I like to put force multipliers in there like Geometric Nexus. It cranks out tokens. I may change this because this deck is very fast. It's all about speed. But if your plan A doesn't work and now the game's going longer than you thought it was going to, then this will help keep you in the game, give you alternative ways to win, blockers, etc., etc. Geometric Nexus, it's a artifact for 2. Whenever a player casts an instant sorcery spell, put a number of charge counters on the Geometric Nexus equal to that spell's mana value. We call this artifact Fraggle Rock because 6, tap it, remove all charge counters from the Geometric Nexus. Create a 0/0 green and blue fractal creature token. Put X+1 counters on it, where X is the number of charge counters removed this way. So you've got a lot of sorceries and instants. Everybody else does too. So this thing just puts all kinds of charge counters on it, and when you get a chance, you can pop out a big old mama creature. It's responsive. I like that as well. You can, for 6, tap it just before your turn, make a creature, and attack with it. I like this card. Next is going to be Lifecrafter's Bestiary. As you can see, it came in the Copa Capena deck at the beginning of your end upkeep. Scry 1, that's very good. Whenever you cast a creature spell, you may pay green if you do draw cards. So with this deck, its strength is getting creatures into the graveyard and flipping those Beastie Boys on to your opponents. So drawing cards is going to be beneficial for that. Next is Supernatural Stamina. Okay, so now we get into the instance of the deck. And basically what happens now is you're going to have ways of killing your creatures that you flipped off onto your opponents before the end step and they have to be exiled. So then you can reuse them, or in this case, with this card, what you could do is kill your creature that you're, devastating your opponents with, and if you want to kill it, then put it on your side. I'll show you the creatures later. A lot of the creatures you cannot have on your side ever. Yeah, so we've got a couple of these type of cards. Supernatural Stamina, and you'll see the other one here in a second. Bedevil, we've got in this deck. No, Scott, it's not Bedevil. It's Bedevil, 2 black and 1 red. Destroy target artifact, creature, or planeswalker. This is good because it's going to allow you to kill your creatures before they get to the end step and have to get exiled and get put back in your graveyard, so you can rinse and repeat with the Beamtown Bullies. But it also gives you defense, disruption, helps you kill artifact, creatures, or planeswalkers. Very good. Cast Down, that's another one of those cards I was telling you about that works really well with Isochron Scepter. Destroy target non-legendary creature. You're going to be able to kill your non-legendary creature before it gets exiled at the end step. Terminate, same thing, works well with Isochron Scepter. Thrill of Possibility, instant, as an additional cost to cast the spell. Discard a card, draw 2 cards. That's going to be good. Without the Beastie Boys in your deck, the Beamtown Bullies don't work very well. So this, between tutoring cards that go directly into your graveyard or rummaging through your deck to put other creatures in your graveyard that are going to work well for you is key in this deck. So it's an instant. It would also work really well with the Isochron Scepter. And next we've got Entomb, another instant that is a graveyard tutor that's going to help you put whatever creature you want into the graveyard and then flip off onto your opponents. Undying Evil, it helps your creatures die but then come back on your side if that's what you want to do. And I'll show you the creatures. The creatures are the funnest part of this whole deck. Next is Slaughter Pact. We've got these type. I've got one more in here, Snuff Out. You'll see here in a second. And what we do with these is we can be tapped out and we could still kill the creature that we are wanting to reuse onto other opponents, or it's a good defense and it comes out of nowhere because everyone thinks you're tapped out. And so it's defense and works well with this deck. Scion of Hallister. It's a background, 1 black and 1. Commander creatures you own have the first time you would draw a card each turn. Instead, look at the top 2 cards of your library. Put one of them into your graveyard and the other back on top of your library, then draw a card. Again, allowing you to filter through your deck to put your creatures into the graveyard if you have not drawn, or if one of your graveyard tutors get countered. Next, we've got Death Reap Ritual. 1 black, green, and 2. Morbid. At the beginning of each end step, if a creature dies this turn, you may draw a card. Very strong. That's very strong, and it works well with what you're doing. Once you flip off one of your Beastie Boys onto your opponent, and then it dies, boom, you get to draw a card. Anything else is going on, you get to draw a card. You're going to be drawing cards. Survival of the Fittest. Thank goodness. This card reminds me of a very strong deck, Living Death deck back in the 96, 98 range. That's why I got this card. I've had that card since then. I wish I'd gotten more. So what that deck would do is it would allow you to put creatures into your graveyard and then grab other toolbox creatures that you could play and kill enchantments like the Uktabi, Orangutan, or Shriek Maw, or Necrotal. Allowed you to play creatures that had some kind of toolbox effect, but then you'd later play a Living Death and put all these creatures back out onto the battlefield from the graveyard. Works well in this deck as well. 1 green and 1 green. Choose and discard a creature card. Search your library for a creature card. Reveal that card to all players. Put it in your hand. Shuffle your library afterwards. So this is a graveyard tutor that allows you to throw something into your graveyard that your Beamtown Bullies can now flip off onto your opponents. And now you can keep recharging your hand and get whatever you need. This card has gone up. I think it's like in the $200 range. I just can't believe it. Of course, I would have bought more if I had I known, but that's the only one I've got. Garruk's Uprising. You try to draw cards. When it enters the battlefield, if you control a creature with power 3 or 4 or greater, draw a card. So this will be good. A third turn, then you play the Beamtown Bullies, and then you get to draw a card, and then creatures you control have trample. Whenever a creature with power or 4 or greater enters the battlefield under control, draw a card. You want to be drawing cards. Windgrace's Judgment. This is an instant for any number of opponents. Destroy target non-land permanent that player controls. This was in the basic Riveteers deck, so I left it in there. Kadama's Reach. So now we're going to talk about some of the ramp. Kadama's Reach is actually the least best one in this deck. You want the ones that are 2 CMC, because what you want is second turn to play one of those, then third turn playing the Beamtown Bullies. But this still helps out. That's ramp. And then these are the ones I was talking about: rampant growth and explore. Now, if I'm going too fast, you, of course, just hit the pause button and look at the video. I'm going to try to make this video shorter than usual. You may play additional land this turn. Draw a card. Farseek, same thing. 2 CMC ramp spells, which you really want in the Beamtown Bullies. Blasphemous Act. It came in the new Capena Riveteers deck, and so I left it in. It's very strong. For 1 red mana, you get to basically wipe the board. That's going to be for defense if your original plan doesn't work out. Faithless Looting, very, very good card. Very good card in this deck. First turn, you can loot, and then third turn, you can do it again. Play the Beamtown Bullies if you're searching for good stuff to flip off onto your opponents. Very good card. Cathartic Reunion. At additional cost to cast a spell, discard 2 cards, draw 3 cards. Fantastic. This deck does not work that well without, these creatures in your deck. Tormenting Voice, same thing. Cost to cast a spell, discard a card, draw 2 cards. Gerard's Order. Search your library for up to 2 creature cards, reveal them, put one into your hand, the other into your graveyard, then shuffle your library. That's going to put cards in your graveyard, which you need. Unmarked grave. This card is only maybe a couple bucks at the most. Search your library for a non-legendary card, put that card in your graveyard, then shuffle. Buried alive. Search your library for up to 3 creature cards, put them into your graveyard, then shuffle your library. What these do is they put the cards you need in your graveyard and they lighten your deck. Reflection of Kiki Jiki. I've got him in here as a force multiplier like I was talking about earlier. Basically, once you do flip him to the Goblin Shaman known as Kiki Jiki, you can tap him, create a token, and that's a copy of another non-legendary creature you control, except it has haste. So that's very good in this deck. What it does, at first is this. For 3 mana, so you can play before the Beamtown Bullies, you can play this, create a goblin guy, and then it makes you treasure tokens. Then 2, you may discard up to 2 cards. If you do draw that many cards, that works well with you putting Beastie Boys into your graveyard for the Beamtown Bullies to then destroy your opponents with. And then 3, exile. This saga becomes Kiki Jiki. So I put this in this deck. I think it's very strong. I talked about this card. I talked about how you guys should be picking these up. I was picking up foils for $2 or $3. Last I checked, just the regular card was going for $16. I knew this card was going to be good. Dragon Mage. Okay, so now we get to the fun part of the deck. 2 red and 5, flying whenever he deals combat damage to a player. Each player discards their hand and draws 7 cards. You could flip this onto one of your opponents, and then you get to draw cards, but so does everybody else. Or you could use this on your side and help you put bad Beastie Boys into your graveyard to then use the Beamtown Bullies with. Dragon Tyrant, very good card, same thing. You could either flip it on somebody or you could use it yourself. Very, very strong card, only a couple of bucks. Flying Trample, Double Strike, and then he's got Fire Breathing. So you could just utterly destroy somebody with this guy. For 2 red, you could keep him on your side. World Gorger Dragon. This is one of the really, really filthy Beastie Boys that's in this deck with the Boomtown Rats here. World Gorger Dragon, everybody knows about him. He needs no introduction. 3 red and 3. When he enters the battlefield, exile all the permanents you control. So what happens with this deck is you could flip this creature onto an opponent, and then you could instantly kill it somehow and exile your opponent's whole board. Very, very, I'm talking all of his lands, everything. And he just sits there with no board at all. So very, very strong in this deck. Next, we've got Galt the Primal Hunger. You can flip this off onto one of your opponents, or you can use it yourself. The Beamtown Bullies cut the casting cost of this thing down by 4 on their own. So you have another creature out, you're going to be playing him for 2 green mana, or you can flip it off onto somebody, and somebody's going to get smashed for 12 trample. Next, we have got Artisan of Kozilek. He came in the New Capena Cabana deck, and he's very strong because you can flip this off onto somebody, and then they're Annihilator 2ing their opponents. But then also, if you hard cast it, you can get something out of your graveyard. Very strong. Master of Cruelties. You can flip this onto somebody and basically kill another opponent, or you can use it yourself. Very fantastic. There is a There is a lightning bolt in here. I must have put it deeper in the deck. But anyway, we've got a lightning bolt in this deck in order to help with the Master of Cruelties and another creature that I'm going to show you here in a second. Breaker of Armies. I've got this guy in here to help kill other opponents' armies. When this thing attacks, defending player must use all their creatures to block. And if it dies, you don't care. You keep using it again. Next, we've got Ebonblade Reaper. He's one of the dirty Beastie Boys. Whenever he attacks, you lose half your life rounded up. So that's going to be your opponent. You're going to flip this off on. Whenever Ebonblade Reaper deals combat damage to a player, that player loses half their life rounded up. So very dirty in this deck. Ogre Slumlord, I got him in here to help protect you for 2 black and 3. What it says is whenever another non-token creature dies, you may create a 1/1 black rat creature token. And so you're going to be killing, your creature's going to be dying, and other creatures are going to be dying. So then it makes you death touch dummies to help block with you with a force multiplier. I think it works very well in this deck. There's that lightning bolt I was telling you about. Works well with Master of Cruelties. You flip that onto an opponent, then zap him with the lightning bolt, and it's over. Phyrexian Negator. Flip this on opponent, trample whenever Negator is dealt damage. Sacrifice a permanent for each 1 damage dealt to it. You could flip this off on an opponent, and then when somebody blocks with it, they're going to lose however many points of damage this thing takes, and then you can give it 3 more with the lightning bolt. Basically going to destroy their whole board. Again, just like the World Gorger Dragon. Tree Shaker Chimera, this came in the deck. It was part of the framework. I left it in there. All creatures able to block the Tree Shaker Chimera do so. When he dies, draw 3 cards. So you could do this, and what happens is your opponent has to block. This thing dies, kills a bunch of creatures. It goes to your graveyard. You draw 3 cards, and then you keep doing it. Next is Soul Gorger Org. He works really well with a lightning bolt. You flip this onto a creature. Whoever's got it, life goes down to 1, and then you basically zap them with a lightning bolt. Kill them that way. Snuff Out. You can use that for World Gorger Dragon to exile somebody's entire board. Use it as defense. Leveler, one of the baddest Beastie Boys in this deck. Very good card. 5, when he comes to play, remove your library from the game. It's very devastating. 4th turn, I was doing this consistently, and if they haven't even played like a card, if they don't have a card in their graveyard, it's just over for them. Or if they just have one, it's going to be early game, they're just going to have 0 to 1 cards in their graveyard, and it's going to be pretty much lights out for them. Coca Show, I've got him in here because you could keep flipping this guy off, keep having him die, and then loop this and drain all your opponents of life. Inverter of Truth, he's basically a leveler, He's good because if you're 1v1 and you don't have a chump blocker, you can do the same thing as leveler but take less damage. That was a scenario that happened to me the other night when I was playing this. Tamir Sabertooth, I might take this out. It's part of the basic precon. 1 green and 1, you may return another creature you control to its owner's hand. If you do, Temur Sabertooth, it becomes indestructible until end of turn. So actually this would be good for your Beamtown Bullies if somebody's trying to kill it or whatever. Next, you've got any chance I get to put Godzilla in my deck, I'm going to do it. I think Godzilla works really well in this deck. For 9 mana, 2 green and 7, trample, but cycling, that's where it's at right here. So it's another way to put a creature card into your graveyard You cycle this, goes to your graveyard, you get to draw a card, and then when you cycle it, put a treble counter on target creature you control. So this allows you to flip off on somebody else, and in 4 turns, somebody's going to be dead if one of your better Beastie Boys is not out there. Avenger is in the card. That came in the deck. I kept it in there, again, as a force multiplier. It's just a good card. Rakdos the Showstopper. No other lists are running this card. I put it in here because earlier, like I said, the Beamtown Bullies are a devil. So he's a 6/6 for 6, flying trample. When he enters the battlefield, flip a coin for each creature that isn't a demon, devil, or imp. Destroy each creature whose coin comes up tails. So you flip this out on an opponent, and now all the creatures that are out have a 50-50 chance of being destroyed. And you keep doing it until the board is destroyed, and it does not affect your Beamtown Bullies. Giant Adaphage, that's one of those force multipliers I was talking about earlier. Udvara Hellkite would also work well in this deck for you to make more dummies. Disciple of Bolus, going to allow you to draw cards. And Kiku's Knight's Flower. So what you want to do in this deck as well is you want to have things that have repeatable kill effects, like Kiku. She's my girlfriend anyway, so we've been kicking it lately. For 2 black, you get a 1/1 Hot Babe that then says 2 black, 2 target creature deals damage to itself equal to its power. This works well in your deck. It helps defend you against problematic creatures. But then also, she kills Blightsteel Colossus, and she kills Death Touch creatures that may have a power less than their defense. So she is in here. Noxious Gear Hulk is in here. That helps you to kill creatures and gain life. You could potentially loop that too as a political weapon. Rotting Regisaur, very good in this deck. 3rd turn, you play this guy. 4th turn, you flip one of the Beastie Boys into your graveyard. Then the Beamtown Bullies come out, and then it's one more way to fill your graveyard. It's a 7/6 for 3 mana. I mean, that's crazy. And it doesn't even say, hey, kill it if you can't discard a card. If you can't discard a card, that's it. This guy still gets to work. Wrathy Assassin, she's like Kiku Knight's Flower, but not as good. 2 black and 1, destroy target tapped creature. Next, Visara the Dreadful allows you to kill your creatures so you can keep using them with Beamtown Bullies. Royal Assassin, same thing, but what he also does is he slows the game down. You put this out 3rd turn, nobody's going to want to attack or anything because they, with their best creatures. I've seen this. I've played this before, and it just slows down the game. Also works very well with the Beamtown Bullies. And that's it. That's all of the Beastie Boys. Spine Rock Knoll is, as you can see, it came in the Copa Capena deck. Hideaway 4. Now, this card's interesting. It says, 1 red, you may play the exiled card that you have without paying its mana cost. If an opponent has dealt 7 or more damage this turn. So it doesn't even have to be your turn. You flip off one of these big Beastie Boys onto one of your creatures, and then if it hits for 7, you can then use this to put out a big fat mama creature or whatever. And then you got Kazul's Cliffs. Another fling effect, probably good. In here, you could flip this a Beastie Boy onto one of your opponents. And then you could, we're going to put another fling in here too. That's what Kazul's Fury is basically. It's a fling. So what it will allow you to do is do something really dirty to somebody like the leveler, and then fling it, then one opponent's out, then it allows you to fling it for 10 damage to somebody else, but then it also kills that creature before the end of the turn, which allows you to use that creature again. And then we've got Kessig Wolf Run. You can use this as a howl from beyond, 1 green, 1 red, and X. Target creature gets XO and gains trample until end of turn. So again, you can flip off one of these Beastie Boys onto one of your opponents and then pump it even more with Keswick Wolf Run. And then we've got some fetch lands, Ash Barrens, basic land cycling, Jund Panorama. These all came in the deck. Blighted Woodland. What these Myriad Landscape, what they do is it helps thin your deck out also. Helps you ramp and then to get the Beamtown Bullies out as early as possible, and then thins your deck. Next, we've got the Mosswort Bridge. You may play the exile card without paying its mana cost of creature control. Have a total power 10 or greater. Same thing. Allows you to cast cards. So that's it. I hope you like my Beamtown Bullies build. This thing is a lot of fun. It's very, very strong. Very strong. So we're going to get on out of here. I don't know if you guys can notice this with my other videos or with this video. I absolutely love Magic the Gathering. I love Commander. I love the product. I love the people. So if you would, please like and subscribe. I'm planning on sticking around. I really enjoy what I'm doing, and I really enjoy this channel. So please subscribe and grow with us. That's it. So I'm going to get on out of here. One more thing. I am an airline pilot. I have another channel called Travelers in the World. Go check that out. I think you'll like it. It's videos on all these cities in the world that I've been to. So leaving you from a very sunny and nice New Orleans, Louisiana, this is the Commander's Crypt, and I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Go Saints!